to the 9:30 hour to start our work session. So we can do that, and let's start with Jill and the CDBG stuff. All yours.
Thank you. Actually, you want to talk first?
Go right ahead.
One of the things that we had been talking about was the elevator at the CSB building. And Mike Arnold with TFC and Architects and Engineers is the one who I've been talking with about the costs and the different requests. Commissioner Zoller had asked us to look into more options for the elevator. And so Mike did a nice job at presenting some quotes and that, so I'm gonna just let him talk about that, and then we can go into more CDBG stuff after that, so.
Thank
Mike,
you, Jill.
you're welcome.
We prepared this report based on Jill's request. She kind of came to us at the last minute and needed something to submit for the grant application. She had talked to another elevator repair company who had an opportunity to investigate the conditions of the existing elevator and the shaft and the building and all of the parts of it. The elevator was installed in 1948, and it doesn't look like there's been a whole lot done to it since then. It still is operating well. It's a little rickety, it's a little old, and needs to be replaced or repaired. So they prepared an estimate based on the existing conditions and what parts of the elevator need to be replaced to bring the car up to date. They felt that just by replacing the car panels and not replacing the sling and replacing the cables and the motors and contacts and do more technologically up to date would be the appropriate things to do, so they put an estimate together for that. We took their estimate and did an evaluation ourselves of the conditions of the shaft and the pit and some of the things that may have to change and the unknowns. Because anytime you dig into a remodeling of anything, you always find a little more than you anticipated when you start where you started. So we prepared a list. This list is, did you all have a chance to print it out? Okay. Of what they had found and also the other conditions that we felt needed to be addressed. We attached dollar values for those conditions and came up with the first item listed, which is a statement of project probable cost. At the previous meeting, if this was presented, according to Jill, there was a request made to investigate other options, replacing the elevator with a hydraulic car, or what other conditions might exist that might be more beneficial. We did that, and from that we came up with two additional costs, one for a geared elevator, which is basically the same type of elevator that's in there now, only be a new car, new equipment, new contacts, everything would be new from the ground up. And that cost is the second cost there with the $208,309. And then we looked at a hydraulic elevator. We're not positive that the hydraulic elevator will fit into the shaft. We're not positive that the elevator will be able, or the pit would be deep enough to receive the elevator if we did go to hydraulic. So there's a lot more questions with the hydraulic elevator and the existing conditions that we could run into if we went that way. What we looked at was the one that looks like it's the most desirable cost-wise and is probably the most feasible with the existing conditions would be to replace the existing geared elevator with a new geared elevator. There are still some unknowns. We've not had a chance to get into in detail as far as the pit depth, if there's any additional depth because of the buffer in the bottom in the pit to receive the elevator. If that has to be increased because of the new car requirements or any new code requirements. We know the shaft is good, will work as it is. We have to look at the rails, but we've also included replacing the rails in this cost estimate for the geared elevator. So what we've presented, or what we've put together here, is what we believe is the worst case scenario for monies that would have to be made available to do this properly. Is there any questions for?
So the statement of the project probable cost at the top,
Yes.
that was without the new gear and obviously not the hydraulic.
No,
Is that
that is if we were to upgrade the existing car, and we're upgrading all
Okay.
the doors, we're upgrading the contacts, upgrading the connection. You're right. I pretty much know what's in there.
Yeah.
So upgrading the contacts, upgrading the whole machine room, building a new machine room. Basically, we have to isolate that machine room from the rest of the activities in that area, so it's in its own space. Replacing the, not replacing the doors, but replacing the doors, replacing all of the mechanisms of the doors, pretty much taking the car, stripping it down to its bare, the sling. I don't know if you're familiar with what the sling is. That's a frame element that goes around the car, and then everything is built off of that, and then the cables are connected to the car and move it up and down.
Okay.
All right? Then the buffer is underneath the car, is basically to receive the car when it gets to the bottom floor. And those elements and the first item would stay. And then the rest of it is just reworking, refurbishing, replacing all of the call mechanisms with the whole machine room would be gutted, and all new machines, equipment, and contacts and calls will be replaced in that space. So it will be modernized to the point that the controls and motorizing mechanisms would all be new. You basically have a new elevator with the exception of the sling and the rails.
You're right. As I see it is, so to modernize the current elevator is actually gonna cost more than it is just to replace the elevator. My question, and I have no irons in the fire one way or other, but the operational cost long-term on a hydraulic elevator, is it less or more than a geared elevator?
From my understanding, it's more.
Hydraulic is?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a no-brainer.
Maintenance on a geared elevator is very minimal. It's greasing the cables.
Until they get old.
Yeah, until they get old. Well, it's as old as I am, so I know how it feels.
So your recommendation is the geared elevator?
Yes, I think not only because of cost, but I think also because of limited or lesser impact on the existing shaft and lesser problems and lesser unknowns about what we might run into when we open it up.
Still seems like a lot of money, but I guess everything is.
Well, we honestly believe that it's gonna be less. And, because we put some money in there for things that we're almost positive will be okay, but we're not positive. And when it comes time to putting together the bid package, you know, we're gonna come to you and put in front of you, here's what we're doing and here's why. And if you think, well, let's live with what we have here as a more wiser investment, you can make that choice then and maybe reduce the cost.
In the past 3 years, we have a figure of what our maintenance cost has been to maintain the current.
I'm sure Tanya has that. 3 years?
Yeah, I would think 3 years is a fair assessment to go back on.
You have a contract with Houghton as a maintenance contract?
We call the place out of Toledo, is it Toledo?
Finley, I thought.
The new one's out of,
New one's out of Finley?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
No, and is that something that you need? If we do this, you'd go with a maintenance contract for,
Maintenance contracts are typically available by the manufacturer, elevator manufacturer, year-to-year basis. It's really a call of the owner.
Probably as the elevator ages, the maintenance costs go up, or the contract would go up. Right now, there's probably I would assume a couple-year warranty on it, and then you start paying a maintenance contract. And as the aging of the elevator goes up, so is the maintenance contract. I mean, I would assume that.
yeah.
If you don't have one now on the existing elevator, and it's been 66 years since it's been in place, I'd say it's held up very well. But if you did have a maintenance contract, maintenance contracts to me are, I don't know, it's why elevator companies put their elevators in, is to get that maintenance contract. That's where they make, I worked for Houghton Elevator and when I first started this career. And so I'm very familiar with the way the elevator companies work and the engineering in them. And I've always found that if you have a good maintenance people on staff and they can talk to the elevator manufacturer and say, okay, what do we need to do every year ourselves? And then you make a decision whether you want to do it yourself or you want to rely on them to come and take care of it. It's a tough choice, I know.
Depends what you got.
I'm not a big fan of contracts like that.
I'm not either. I'm personally, So,
No, that's not my recommendation. I feel the same way.
Jill, how are we gonna pay for this?
Good question. Block grant is, you have 108 total, but you have 2 other applications, City of Fostoria and New Regal applied for funding from that block grant for this current year. Some of that money, some of that 108 needs to be, needs to go towards administration and fair housing also. And so that leaves you with, you know, the difference.
Which is approximately what?
Depends on.
100,000, 90?
If you go at the 20% for admin and fair housing, you're at, $86 for.
Now, if I might make a suggestion or give you some ideas, you might be able to spread this project over 2 years. Because there are certain elements of this project that can be done and keep the existing elevator in its current condition. I mean, I don't think there's a threat for life safety with the elevator the way it is.
That's even if we go with a new replacement elevator, we can spread it out over 2 years, or
Yes.
fixing the old one?
Yeah, there's lesser options with replacing the car than there is with an option where we replace the car, but there are options. We can isolate the equipment room. We can know what equipment's going to go into it and size the equipment room and spend the monies to isolate that. We can upgrade the doors because we can buy new doors. They're not part of the elevator car, the ones at each floor. So there's things there, and I'd have to go through it and itemize what those things might be. But there is that possibility.
Go ahead, Jeff.
With the new geared elevator, you could do that in 2-year stage?
With probably lesser success than you would with the repairs.
Okay.
Of course, obviously, with repairs, you can do whatever repairs are wise to do together. But when you replace the car, you got the car to replace, you can do the car, you can do the machine, or the machine room and car all has to be done at the same time. But you can work on the doors, the call systems, and some of the other electronics that are involved there.
And that would keep the elevator operational if you did that in 2 phases.
Yes, and it would be challenging if we go with the second option.
Stupid question, I've been known to ask a lot of those, but, I mean, if we look at the repairs over the last 3 years, and we find out there's a common denominator, I look at something, do we need to throw the baby out in the bathwater? You know, is the cab, if that's not a maintenance issue, can you keep the cab? And we find out that the vast majority of the maintenance issues were the electronics or the gears or whatever, and just isolate it and replace those versus, you know, the shaft, or not the shaft, but the cab.
I guess,
The cab's a cab in my mind, but I don't know anything
if you're,
about it.
how much time do we have to go to file for the grant?
Very soon. I have to do the second public notice, and I need to advertise that 10 days prior to, so that gives us until this Friday to have it, the resolution and all the projects laid out on the 17th.
Can you make the application for the grant and have a total project and they can expend just the grant monies the first year?
I was trying to get some answers from the state on that regarding dividing it up between 2 years, and they had more questions about is the elevator going to stay operational during that time? And so I didn't get communications back before we came over here today regarding that. So
I guess what I'm,
as long as your project that you're working on can be completed, as long as you have project completion per year, then I think the answer to that would be yes. You could do 2 different phases, but you have to have that completion, you know.
If you, can you, I
So-
mean, I'm not familiar with it, dealing with them directly. If you explain to them that you want to set this up over 2 or 3 years, where you want to spend 80,000, 80,000, 80,000?
It just, I think it, and I did put that out there with them, but I didn't get a definitive answer back. They want more information about what the structure is gonna be, you know, exactly what's gonna happen. Is the elevator gonna still be operational, and,
So what
to
they
be
do-
able to define it from each year, because you can't typically with CDBG funds carry it over unless you request for an extension. So you can't apply for it expecting, oh, we're gonna apply for an extension to carry it over into the next year and combine it. You can't do it that way.
But we can spend their money this year.
We could spend it
and
this
spend their
year,
money next year.
as long
and
as,
spend their money next
There's
year.
have to be a completion.
Yes,
You have to
but
say,
you have to
we're gonna
say-
do A in 2014.
So
yeah.
that's what we.
And the engineer has to be able to say, yes, this project was completed each year to do that, so.
So, okay.
And as long as the guidelines from year to year don't change, and this is ADA accessibility, basically, so I don't see that changing. That hasn't changed in years.
So if the commissioner would give us a direction that we want to spend X number of dollars this year on that elevator, what can we do for that much money this year? What can we do with this much money next year? There's a possibility.
And the county also has the option of holding over the funds, which we talked about at your last meeting. You can hold over your 108,000 allocation program this year and apply for it next year. You'll have that 108 plus whatever the allocation amount would be for next year, as long as the program doesn't disappear between now and then. That's the only risk that you take.
And then the other risk is you're gonna have 16 other projects, quite likely, that are just as worthy and.
And our 3-year that we have to, this is the, when for 3 years, we have to make sure Fostoria has money. This is year 2.
Yes.
So if we skip this year, we still have year 2 and year 3 to go. Because we,
Well, that, I don't know the answer to that.
Yes.
I would think so. But if you give Fostoria a portion and they agree to that, you know, that's between the county and Fostoria and what their projects, you know, they have are. So.
Well, why don't we do some math here and see what else we're gonna do, see how much we've got to put toward the elevator this year. You say, the way we left it last time, if I'm not mistaken, is we were gonna do 20% for the, guaranteed for the Fostoria NRG.
Yes, except that has changed.
That has
That's the
changed.
restroom.
Since I talked to Dan Thornton, since that meeting, he just told me that they actually decided not to, they want to opt out of the competitive grants for this
Oh,
year.
okay, okay.
And they want to regroup and see where they're at to move forward with then next year,
So
to get
that's
a
all
project
continuing.
that makes the most sense, because they have such a need in Fostoria for so many different things, that to address a specific target area,
Mhm.
they need to be able to better identify those target areas that they wanna.
So then the only other Fostoria project on the table is the restroom at the Muni building.
Right.
Well, and I got a call from Mark Heckman this morning on that. That's a $54,000 project, and of that, we were proposing 20-some.
Well, that's where the county was talking about the allocation program, and if you did, or, I'm sorry, the competitive program, and if we applied for that, you were gonna take 20% of your allocation program and apply it to that grant application. If that's not funded, then the alternate was gonna
Right.
be that 20% going to that project in Fostoria, which they agreed to at that point, but then this morning when I spoke to Dan Thornton, they said no, they don't have capital funds to be able to put into this
They'd have
$54,000
contributed about
project after all.
34,000 to it, and they just,
They had an unexpected expense at, I think, the firehouse over there, I think is what he said, and having to redo an air conditioning unit just this spring, so they don't have the capital funds to apply to this project at this point, so.
so are they pulling the project altogether, so then it's not, we just can't have a Fostoria project because there's not one to be considered?
Well, the county has that requirement, and so if the city of Fostoria agrees to not have a project on the county's allocation program this year, then that's the waiver. so
Okay.
you're free of it for the year then.
Okay. Which I'm guessing we still have 2 more years, we'll probably have to make sure we get the
Well,
money
if
back.
you're using your funds this year and they opt out, that leaves you 1 more year.
At least one, okay. As long as if they're gonna waiver, because if they don't, then we've got to give them.
I don't think they're happy about having to waiver, but I think that they will. And in fact, Dan said that they would.
Yeah, that's exactly what Eric said.
So. And then the other project was over in New Regal.
I think we need to make this elevator a priority. It's just down so much, it's causing problems with,
Tanya gave me the numbers. We had about 5,000 in 2012. We had about 5,500 in 2013. We've already had $300 this year. But we keep babying it too. They'll have an issue with it over there. By the time maintenance gets over there,
It's
it's not
working.
doing it anymore. So there's gremlins and it just, so.
I think we need to do something with that.
I don't know, 5,000 a year is not a lot to spend 240,000. I mean, that's,
You remember the tirade that the past health commissioner had the last time it was down? Margie was
Yeah.
very upset the last time it was down. They do have a handicapped person on that floor. She doesn't, the handicapped person doesn't want a big deal made out of it. She'd rather just people leave her alone.
Then they're customers as well, the clientele that come in. Should we punt? What should we do? You're the quarterback. I'm asking.
Ball's in your court.
I'm absolutely against trying to take CDBG money for future years towards a project. We bite the bullet and we do what we can with CDBG this year and come up with additional general revenue funds and not take away from other parcels for future years. And I know that's a tough program, but I hate to take money from Fostoria, hate to take money from New Rigo, and if we're gonna do it, let's do it one time, bite the bullet, and then move on, and not to take funds for future years away from. I just have a problem with that. And I don't like, none of this I like. I don't think any of us like any of this.
Well, it's 108,000 that we didn't have, that we could put somewhere. So it is an opportunity to put it somewhere.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
hard to choose, you know, there's,
And that's if we.
And how are we doing in our maintenance fund this year that we set aside X amount for maintenance issues in our budget?
The money that goes into 215, we do about $100,000 a year, putting money aside.
How are we doing on that fund?
I'd have to look.
I mean, is there, we've been, to my knowledge, we've been pretty fortunate this year and haven't been hit with too many catastrophic issues and.
well, we buy things like, we bought phones out of
Yeah,
there and
it-
things like that.
Yeah, we
was
use quite
last
a
year,
bit of
wasn't
that.
it?
Was it last year? It all runs together, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but we gotta build it back up throughout the year, because we only get the lease payments in. Farm leases are twice a year, but the other leases are monthly, so we gotta build the revenue back up. I mean, there's funds
I
in
mean,
there, but,
I'm okay to do it in a 2-year project, but not to take CDBG funds. We take part of it this year out of the CDBG and we budget next year. So we do it a 2-year project. Okay, and next year we get it in the budget to do the other half of it this year, but again, only take CDBG funds for 1 year. And the next year we have to budget for it.
Or you could take it on a carryover, if you want to do that, if you wanted to complete the elevator, you could take it on a carryover and do the.
Is there
The whole
an
thing.
advantage to do it all in 1 year?
Sure, there's savings, because you mobilize your contractor to come in and do the work, and then you have the disarray of the work being done during a period of time.
Could you give us a
Rather than-
figure? Is it possible to?
Well, it's 208 to do the whole thing.
Yes, I
Yeah,
would say
but
you
if you
probably.
broke that up into,
Well, you're going to
Half
have
and half.
probably a 3-4% increase in inflation. You're going to have probably 10 to 15% mobilization. I'd say probably 25 to 30%.
Hmm,
Yeah.
hmm. But with that, you gotta do it all at once.
Okay. Well, I don't, I'll just make a suggestion here. We take the amount we have to for admin and fair housing and put the rest toward the elevator and make up the rest of the general fund.
I can support that.
Go with the geared elevator, that's your preferred option
Yes.
and the cheapest option.
I would agree with that. Don't like it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's why you get the big bucks, not these tough decisions.
Well, it's 86,000 that we didn't have before. We had to replace the elevator on our own.
So where do we move at from there? Is that-
You
Do
have
we
to
take a vote
schedule
on
a
that?
second hearing and then we,
I'll schedule the hearing, I'll put together the resolution to approve the projects. Then, if for some reason you need alternates, what would you select for your alternate projects so that we can put those in the resolution as well?
'Cause
So-
do we have to wait for the waiver from Fostoria?
I'll need that to go in with the application, so I'll get that very soon.
Okay, then I guess New Regal has to be our alternate.
Well, let me ask you, if the elevator doesn't make the cut, and we gotta look at an alternative, could we then give a larger portion of that 90,000 that's left and give it towards Fostoria so they can do their project and their contribution would be much less? Is that, so then we would, our alternate would be Fostoria / New Riggle?
You could do that as an
Is that an
alternate, or
option?
you could do alternate 1 Fostoria, alternate 2 New Riggle, so that way you just go down the list.
Yeah, but
if something
Fostoria
happens.
itself is not,
Is 54,
yeah, that's not
right?
the 80 or 90 that's left.
Exactly.
And what was New Riggle's?
46, oh
What,
wait,
400?
Well, there's 52,440, but then it says 10,000 or engineering costs. I didn't know what that meant. I forget what you told us.
it was originally, they submitted it as 46, but then with the engineer's estimate that came in, that made it 50, what was the number you said?
52,440?
Yeah,
That's New Riggle?
yes, 52,440.
Are they willing to contribute some of that themselves? Well, I guess I'm looking at, is our first choice is the elevator for 1 year. Alternate would be combination Fostoria and New Riggle.
50/50, yeah.
And I know
Yeah,
New Regal's
which
was
would get,
dependent on their
uh,
schedule of their repaving, because they wanted it done.
Well, they knew that it wasn't going to happen. We talked last time about that, and they opted to change the project to be sidewalk improvements, so
Oh,
it
okay,
won't
so
have an
this is-
effect on that. But yes, to answer your question, they were willing to contribute either 10,000 or engineering costs.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so
New
we're
Riggle.
able to get 42,000. Fostoria's project and New Riggle's project are each roughly 50-some thousand. If Fostoria could kick in at 10, plus the 40-some for CDBG, if they're receptive to that, I think that's an alternative plan, you know, A, B, and C.
Most likely, the alternative won't come into play, because this is our project, and it will most likely happen. Lots of times, these alternatives happen because one of the other entities can't get they can't come up with their match or something, so that's when they usually fall off the radar. But we do have to have it in place.
I'm fine with that. A, B, C. Do we need to take a vote for that?
She'll have a resolution, she'll prepare a resolution, right?
Yep, so we're doing the elevator as number 1 with the admin and fair housing, and then alternate Fostoria and New Regal, splitting it to be each one contributing approximately 10, or whatever that number comes out to be for splitting it equally between both. Is that what you?
Yeah, I would certainly run that by
Yes, I will call
the
them
mayor
first.
of
Yes.
Fostoria and of New Riggle, to see if they're receptive to that, because there
Yeah.
is a contribution that they have to make towards the project.
Yes, and I know
Even
New
though it's
Regal
less.
is good with that. They already confirmed it. Larry did.
Is there a particular amount that fair housing has to have?
No, now it's all in one total. Now you set aside a certain percentage toward admin and fair housing, and then you decide what it costs to maintain that program. and then put that towards.
I know we
fair
have
housing.
to do something for fair housing each year, but you
Yeah.
know my feelings, it's kind of
Yes.
a waste of government money to pass out pins that say fair housing and little trinkets and everything, and
Mhm.
I'm not a big fan of the program. So the minimum we can put to that
Yes.
would be my
Yeah.
preference.
Okay. I will get that prepared and get the public notice ready for the paper, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bring us better news next time.
I'll try.
And you can quote me on that one.
Well, we're right at time to, ideally, 10 o'clock to start our regular session. So I'd like to call to order the regular Seneca County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, June 3rd. Please join me for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Reagan, would you like to do the prayer?
If you wish me to. Lord, we thank you for another day that we can gather together and make decisions. We ask for your wisdom and guidance. In Jesus' name, amen.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stacy,
Here.
Commissioner Zoller,
Here.
Commissioner Whitmer.
Here.
Okay, we'll have the signing of the journal, and I'll accept a motion to approve the DVD recording from our previous session from Thursday, May 29th, and the index.
Approved?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All approved. Thanks. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda other than the engineer resolution?
Just wanted to touch on ask about the fair board again.
Okay.
Maybe remind everybody that the radio is next week. I don't know where you want to do
8:15, isn't it?
that. I don't know.
8 or, I put down 8:15.
I think it is 8.
Is that on Tuesday?
Next Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it's not at the mall now anymore, is it?
What is it?
It is.
Is it?
It's with Keith, right?
It's with Keith.
Yeah.
Is it
Yep.
still at the mall?
Yep.
Okay, okay. All right, my bad.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, I would like to discuss the RTA building and our water issues and mold and so forth. And then discuss establishing a committee for one of the commissioners to chair or head up for the Justice Center and to enter in negotiations with the city and so forth in response to our resolution last week of adopting the Justice Center study.
Okay. Got those added. All right.
Got a couple.
You got a couple?
Sheriff Boiler under old business and new business Echo.
And the engineer resolution, is that's just a resolution? Those are
Yeah,
the
that's the one that was
resolution.
added to the bottom, I just forgot to print it out after I sent the
Oh,
agenda.
okay.
So it wasn't on there.
Gotcha. Okay, let's begin with the old business and Fair Board update.
I didn't know if Mark had had a chance to put that together or not.
He's working on it. He called yesterday, making sure he had the right areas that we wanted. So he was gonna go out, was it yesterday or Friday? Yesterday, I think. He was gonna go out and get the specs done, so.
Okay.
He wasn't quite sure, because I think when he first did it, he was stopping before our building.
Uh-huh.
So we were gonna have him do the specs to the end of the building and then in front of the Fair Board, so.
We
He is working on it.
We can't rush him since he doesn't work for us, but next Tuesday night is their fair board meeting, and I wouldn't mind having some sort of an idea to tell them, you know, we're gonna do A or B.
Yeah.
I imagine it'll be pretty quick, because he said he wanted to get it done and
Okay.
off his plate, so he didn't forget about it, so.
Okay, okay. Hopefully we can talk about that next Tuesday and get something in mind, what we're gonna do.
Okay. All right, RTA building.
We've got a bid in, as everyone knows, we've got a mold problem in the RTA building that is there. There's some water infiltrating from the flower pots, some rusting of the steel infrastructure in that. We have one bid in, and another one that we're waiting on, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of motivation for someone to take on a project of this nature, because you just don't know what you're gonna get into, but we have potential health risk with the mold and so forth, and I would suggest that we take the bid in hand, and, which was for $40,000 to remediate the mold and to fix as much as they can fix the leaking pipes, the drain pipes that comes in, understanding that there are no long-term commitments in the repairs that they would do, because it's just a facility that you can't, it may be, and I repeat, it may be impossible to eliminate. The contractor would do as best as he can, but he does not want to be held liable that, that if we still have water infiltrating the building, that we don't come back on him and get him in breach of contract or something. He's not overly excited about doing it, but it's a very reputable contractor, and I suggest that we move forward with it, and we would enter into an agreement of, I think it was $40,000, not to exceed. It may be less than that as he gets involved with it, and then if it's more than that, then once he gets it, once you start doing repairs, then you really see what you're involved. If it's more than that, he would have to come back to this board and get approval, and we'd either make a decision to move forward with those approvals with a cost, or stop it, don't go any further, and so forth. So that's really my recommendation, but I think we need to move forward because of potential health issues, and it's just a situation that is not going to get better. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, I think we should go ahead and get it
Yeah, I
taken
think
care
so
of.
too.
And we'll draft up a contract service agreement and send it to him, and
Okay.
But we need to stipulate in there that there are no liabilities on the contractor's part. He'll make the repairs to the best of his ability. And again, it's a very reputable local contractor that would be doing it. I certainly understand his concerns of holding it, so I want to make sure that we protect him as much as we protect the county too.
Yeah, and like I said, with it being up to 40,000. And the
Yeah.
contract that we'll draft up will kind of put some detail to the expectations of what
Yes.
is going to happen. Yet again, we know.
And I can certainly get with the prosecutor on there to make sure that what we do is legal, what we're asking. And he feels very confident that a lot of the leaking is coming in through the old front door. That's where a lot of the mold has been created, a lot of rusting of the steel girders or infrastructure, whatever you call those beams. He feels very confident that a lot of it is coming in there, but there's no guarantees to the whole project there.
Yeah. All right, so we can address that once you get a chance to get with Derek and everything. Okay. All right, Joint Justice Center.
If you're ready, I have inquired with the mayor and referenced our resolution last week of approving the Joint Justice Center, and that we would start negotiations.
Study.
The study. Yeah, that we, okay, the
Accepted. We accepted
resolution
the study.
of adopting the study. Again, we have not decided on location, and we haven't given any approval of any expenditures right now. Right now, the process is that the county and the city need to get together. I've inquired with the mayor, and the mayor suggested that he would certainly like to be part of that, and I would make a recommendation that we have a member of the commissioner's office, and I would like to nominate Holly, if you want to spearhead that, to you, along with the mayor, the prosecutor, and the city law director, to look at contractually. We've got maintenance issues, we've got operational issues. They're just a mountain of legal issues that the city and the county would have to enter into for this project. And I think, Holly, you'd be extremely good at this. You're a very detailed person, and I would,
Train.
but
Yeah, I would be more than happy to do that. Yeah, because there's a lot of things to get figured out before we know,
Time frame.
yeah, timeframe. If, again, there's the definite final commitment, we're moving forward, we gotta know those things before either party can do that, so.
I'll second that. That's probably not a motion, but I agree with you.
yeah. So I mean, you just have to get with the mayor and you work it out, and perhaps from time to time, you may want to report back to the board here on the progress of that process. And I mean, everyone knows that there is an additional study that's being conducted on the East Tower as a possible site for the 54,000 square foot facility, which is 22,000 for the old East Tower plus a 34,000 square foot addition. And I just want to re-emphasize that the study is the combined Justice Center. So we need to make sure that the study encompasses that. And
And that is not our study.
that is not our study. It is an independent study that SIDEC will be conducting, but it is funded through private donations. And so I think we could do both of them simultaneously. Ours with the contractual thing with the city county, B, this independent study could be done at the same time. And my hope would be is later in the first part of the fourth quarter that maybe we can have those things put to bed, and if we decide to move forward, that we can start possibly allocating some funds for engineering and so forth into 2015.
Okay. So I should reach out to the mayor and let him know that I'm going to be the person.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for accepting that challenge.
Yep. All right. Sheriff's boiler. Is Sheriff boiling?
Yes, it is, or will be. Last month, we did some replacement of flex tubes in the boiler. Since, boilers are down, they had found some leaking going on, and there was 6 tubes. Come back and replace those 6 tubes, and now the company's saying there's an additional 6 tubes in there that are also leaking. So Sheriff went ahead and got a quote, and I emailed it to all of you. $3,600 for the six more tubes. He also did a quote for, it's not a whole new boiler, but it's a complete re-tube of the boiler, which includes 30 tubes inside and 31 outside. I had asked the sheriff what the recommendation of that company was, and he said, well, that would be up to us, but we could get those 6 in and then have more leaking. I did send it to Earl just to, because that you had recommended the CSB sending to him, so I did send him this too, so he could look at. So, give you something to think about. I'll wait till I hear from Earl, but
Is that the original boiler?
yes.
And the sheriff's department was built in what, early 90s?
Early 90s, 93, I think.
So we got 10, 20, 25 years.
The 3,600 is just 6 tubes, or is that the complete rebuild?
That's just the 6 tubes.
What's
The
the
complete rebuild is almost 30,000. And then he
675.
said it would be just like new.
I haven't followed ICE like I should. How are we doing this year with ICE?
She's got 2 payments billed out. We're at 40% right now, but like I said, she's got 2 payments billed out currently, waiting for it to come in.
Right about on target. We were at the Budget Commission this morning, and the target percent is 42%, collections at 40%. So you're right about on target. She has a couple months outstanding, so that would put us above the 42. You're right in the range.
I just wonder, is there extra monies that we can kind of look to take care of some of those issues, or is the sheriff going to be making some requests for us that we know about later in the year?
Currently,
It's
all
been-
of his revenue has been appropriated.
Yeah.
Everything that he's anticipated bringing in on revenue, he's he's got appropriated.
And we didn't cut his budget last year, did we, or from what his original request was?
No.
So if there is additional funds, I have a tough time trying to comprehend this 42%. I deal in dollars, you know. How much are we over budget or under budget?
Well, we
And,
should be at 40% right now, shouldn't we?
yeah, so what's that equate to dollars?
42 is what it should be.
40,
And,
I did,
and his ice money comes to the general fund.
yeah. There's no separate ice fund.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'd like to do is replace the boiler and hopefully that the ice fund will have sufficient money in there to take care of something like that. If we're running ahead.
Well, we get about 1.7, I think is what he's got coming in for revenue on ice, and they get almost $5 million in both funds from us. So general fund's got the majority of the costs for the sheriff anyway. He just helps supplement with the ice. So and budgets are $5 million, and we only get 1.8 in. So I don't know if there's
Yeah,
ever
but that was
really extra.
budgeted. The difference was budgeted there.
Yes,
So if ice goes over, then we could
yes,
take from that pot to pay
yep.
this one versus taking it out of, you know, we can only go back to the piggy bank so much there.
Right, but that may not, we may not know that till the end of the year, and I guess to do the boiler, we'd rather do it in the summer than wait till
Well, yeah, until he needs
winter.
it.
Yeah,
That would be a
we've
good
done that before.
We did not give the sheriff everything he requested this. We don't give anybody everything they request.
No, because weren't we still, we were still in negotiations for the raises, so we only put in the salary line what he needed.
Yeah.
And he was okay with that figure.
Yeah, I think we gave based on this year's, yeah, I guess it depends how you say, when you say cut the budget, you can look at that 3 or 4 different ways. But I don't think we gave him everything he requested.
No, but that would have been way over what his current
Right.
budget would have been.
Right. Well, you've got that, some people looking at that, Earl's looking at that, and
Yep.
who else was looking at that, did you say?
Just the company that's doing the boilers, and Earl's gonna look at it, so.
Okay, and does Dean have an opinion? I guess Dean doesn't do so much
Right.
maintenance out there,
No.
that's the other fellow.
Can we get a second opinion from another company that puts in boilers or does maintenance on boilers, or?
I can ask Sheriff to do that. He takes care of who he calls for these repairs, so I can ask him if he can do that.
I'd
They had
like
already
to get a second
replaced-
opinion on
Sure.
expenditure there.
It doesn't seem like an unreasonable amount, being since a 20-some-year-old boiler, but I'd wait and see what Earl says.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess so then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Fact is, there's very little options.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
You gotta have the heat.
All right, well, that gets us through all the old business, unless anybody else has anything else. Okay, we will move to new business. Let's begin with the resolutions that we have printed. Cover the other
Do you want to do EMS since
Oh,
Dean is
yeah.
here? It's on the agenda for, it just included into our agendas, but if we could pull it out and do,
Okay.
we can introduce. You'd like to do that,
All
please?
right, sure. Ken, we'll let you come forward and make the introductions, and then we'll handle the resolution.
All right, well, thank you for having me here today, and through a long process that I know that we've all been involved in, through interviews and things like that, we've hired an assistant EMS director, and I'm going to introduce her right now without further ado. Danielle Gaybauer.
Welcome to the county.
Thank you very much.
Danny's been in EMS with us for a long time. She's worked at our Bascom district, and she's been, came up through the ranks. She's a paramedic, and she's also the assistant coordinator with Bascom Joint Ambulance District. And I've known her for, I don't know how many years now, quite a few years. And she, I think, is very suitable for this position. With her attention to detail, she's a very local person. She knows the system very well. She came up in this system. Her family's involved in this system. She was born and raised in this system. And to me, that's very important, considering what we're trying to do and in keeping with the community-based ambulance system model, the joint ambulance district model. and keeping this very much our hometown ambulance service. And we've got our work cut out for us, and I know Danny's up to the challenge. So over the course of the next few weeks, you guys will probably see quite a bit of her, because we're going to have to do some training with Nikki and with Stacy and Tanya as far as the way the county does business, because that'll be all new to her. But EMS is not new, and I think the concept of what we're trying to get accomplished here in EMS is she's going to be a very good teammate for this. So I think we got a lot of years ahead of us that are going to be very productive, and I'm going to need her help, and I know she's up for that. So you won't say anything? I just babble on.
I'd just like to say thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I am excited to be a part of it. So thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
I think it's worth mentioning, just to the general public, that this switch is made so that we have an individual in administrative that can also be a paramedic
Yes.
in the thing. So it's kind of a dual role. It's not strictly clerical,
Right.
but it's in that what-if syndrome that you need a backup. You got somebody that can physically get in the ambulance and go out and
Right.
do those things. And so it's dual responsibility
Absolutely.
here. And I think that's extremely important that we have someone like you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's have that resolution. We'll handle that one separately from the others.
I have a resolution hiring Danielle Gaybauer as the Assistant EMS Director for Seneca County EMS, effective date June 9th, 2014.
I'll make that motion.
Seconded.
Been moved in second. Any questions, comments? And I don't think it's premature. I'll say congratulations and call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wagner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes,
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Thank you.
All approved.
you're in.
Now the work again.
Oh, and Danny's mom came too today.
You couldn't tell.
Well, thanks for joining us. Thank you. Important stuff. All right, we'll move through the other resolutions we have for new business.
I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations for the Septic Loan Fund 109, putting $5,314.14 in the OWDA loan payback. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriation for the M&R Fund 020, putting $414,118.74 into their contract projects line.
I assume that's more road paving.
Yep. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations for the Title Administration Fund 155, putting $500 into other expense. I have an appropriation adjustment within the M&R Fund 020, moving $75,000 from equipment to contract projects, $25,000 from contract services to contract projects, $5,000 from land to contract projects, $15,000 from stone to contract projects. Their other land account, $12,000 to contract projects, $50,000 from contract services to contract projects, and $150,000 from the, he has 3 different accounts, the 00401, he's taking it from the 42 to the 41 for the $150,000. Total requested move, $332,000. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations for the general fund, putting $1,000 into transporting inmates. This was a cost that the troopers had to go out of state to get an inmate. I think this is one that will be reimbursed, so. I have a resolution granting the vacation abandonment of 2 portions of West Lodi, or West Street, and 1 portion of South Street and West Lodi, located within Reed Township, Seneca County, Ohio. This is in follow-up to the hearing we had last week. I have a resolution setting time, date, and place to receive sealed bids for the Seneca County Road 5, County Road 13, County Road 19 pavement resurfacing. It will be set for Tuesday, June 24th at 10:15 a.m. here at the Commissioner's office. And I do have the one additional new business. One of our previous Echo units had moved, gave us plenty of notice last time when she left. She has come back into the county and she has expressed interest. Ken has expressed interest in bringing her back on just because summer's here and, you know, the schedules are getting harder to fill. This won't increase his budget any, it just gives him an extra individual to help offset his schedule. So if it's all right, I have a resolution hiring Melissa Payne as an intermittent paramedic for the Seneca County EMS response unit effective June 3rd, 2014.
All right, do I have a motion with all the resolutions?
Make a motion, we accept the resolutions as outlined.
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Weber?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes, so they all stand approved. Only thing left that we had listed was just making sure we stated the fact that we were all invited to once again be part of WTSC radio interview, and that is this coming Tuesday?
Week from today.
Week from today at 8:15.
I don't know if it makes a difference, the calendar says 8:10, so I don't know if that makes a difference, you're just giving yourself 5 more minutes.
Be there by 8:10, there you go.
Yeah, just in case.
Just so you know that we're all gonna do that. All right. Citizen comments. At this time, do we have anyone who would like to make comments? Purpose of our meeting. I am seeing none. Okay. We have, need to go into executive session for purpose of personnel and personnel-related issues. I have a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, and then.
Is this different from the 12 o'clock?
Oh, that's not till noon. We can't do that till
Yeah,
noon.
John Croc's gonna do a conference call, it's actually bargaining, the bargaining
okay.
unit. So. he's
Okay,
gonna do a
never mind. We
conference
can't do
call.
that yet.
Sorry.
I'll not ask that much. And the network meeting is at 11.
Yep, we had originally had a CDBG hearing scheduled at 10:30, so that's why we scheduled the networking at 11.
Okay.
So we just have a
So we're just going to recess until 11, and we'll all be present for, along with other department heads and elected officials coming in for a discussion on the opportunity for networking in the county through what the COG's leading that charge.
Yep,
Okay.
and the city, yep.
So I guess that's it. We stand recessed until 11. Thanks for being here. Or you can stay around. You don't have to leave.